what is a password manager and why do you need one? So, computers and cybersecurity have kind of started leaping, right? So, we're no longer in a situation to where your normal passwords that you would use 20 years ago are still safe in this day and age. There's a whole big thing if you look back at the history where we were like, all right, we need you to have a password now, and everybody was like, okay, my password is 12345 or the word password. And then we went, okay, but people now know what are the most commonly used passwords, and people are able to guess them. So let's go ahead and add a number. And people went, okay, my password is now password one, right? And so we went for a little while with that, and then we were like, all right, well, people have figured out what the common passwords are now. You have to use a special character. And they went, okay, my password is password one exclamation mark. And we've kind of gone and grown from that point in time now. Last year, I was pushing a lot of passphrases and passkeys for both my stuff and also my clients. Obviously, my organizations, we use a password manager to kind of organize all that. And that's kind of what we want to talk about here is why a password manager is important for keeping you safe. There's a few people that'll be listening to this that'll know what a password manager is, and that's cool. You're doing the right thing, right? That's what we want. Whether you're using, Nordpass or Proton KeyPass or even KeyPass or LastPass, it doesn't matter. As long as you're using one, that's the kind of thing. The people that I want to kind of reach out to now, so if this sounds like you, is you go, oh, I don't need a password manager because ... right? I can remember my password, which means you're sharing passwords, right? Which you have the same password in multiple things, which is bad, right? You could be to an extent of being like, oh, I don't have to worry about it because I wrote it on a post-it note sitting on my computer. I don't have to worry about it because I keep it in an Excel sheet. All these are actually things that are unsafe. So we want to move away from that. And password managers allow us to do this. So instead of having to remember every single passwords and have multiples that kind of share things, what we can do is we can use a password manager. And for all intents and purposes, I'm going to be talking about Nordpass. So if we're using Nordpass, you can use the free version of Nordpass. It doesn't even cost you anything to store all of your passwords within a safe, secure environment in which that you can then have one thing that you can get into, and then you can actually then take your passwords and put them in where you need to use them. Now, if you pay for Nordpass or any of the other password managers, you get a bunch of other stuff with them. So we're talking about things that like check to make sure your passwords haven't been captured and used on the dark web or things like that, like to the point to where they run similar to how you manually would check, have I been pwned? Which is a website, which if you don't know, go check out Have I Been Pwned. You put your email address in, it'll tell you if you've been hacked and put out there. The password manager takes care of all that. Now, there's a few reasons why this is important. First thing is you can use as complicated of a password as you want without having to try to remember the password. So in a lot of cases, again, Nordpass being the one that we're kind of talking about now, you can actually have it generate the password for what you're using. It'll basically just copy and paste from that directly into what you're using. You don't even need to know the password because it's in the password manager that you have securely access to. The other thing that's kind of important there is in a lot of cases, it's auto-filling from the password manager. So it means that you're not actually typing the thing. Whether or not you feel that you're important enough for somebody to install a keylogger on your computer or somewhere in your computing ecosystem, it happens, right? And basically, if you sit there and you type out your password every single time, it's going to have multiple hits of this password going through, and they're going to actually be able to see this is the thing that they're typing over and over again. We remove that completely. So all these little kind of holes, the password manager takes out of there. Now, the big thing that I run into is people are scared to start using a password manager because there is a bit of setup with it, and especially if you've not used one before, it's an unfamiliar situation. So obviously, if you are scared or you're having problems, reach out to either myself or any security professional, and we'll be able to help you out with that. It is an important thing for you to take the time. So whether you're just not super tech savvy or you've just never used one, it's not too hard once you get going. Like everything else, Same thing with cell phones and all technology. Once you actually do it and you get it set up and it's kind of running in the background, it just runs. So it's important that you find somebody to help you with that if you're having trouble with it. What we don't want is people to be vulnerable, especially people who are maybe not the most tech savvy people, because their passwords are being floated around everywhere. Nordpass in particular, again, has a great free version of it. I'm not sponsored by them. This is just the one that I'm using at the moment. So they're basically, the free version is great. The paid version is super cheap. It's like in American, it's like $1 something a month or something like that. And then it takes care of all your stuff. It'll even actually take care of the autofill on websites that you're paying. So like your Amazons and eBays and things like that. So I can't stress that enough. If you have more questions about password managers, DM me, message me. We'll get you some answers and some help. But that's probably one of the things that we see a lot where we go into a site, we're working with a client, and we go, okay, what's your password for this? And they go, oh, it's on the sticky note on the monitor, or oh, it's just using a PIN number and you can get in there. We want to remove that, right? We want to just remove the low hanging fruit that any sort of nefarious person that sees that information could try to take and use.